So I ended up accessing Jackson Street for the first time when I believe I was 16. Um, I was I was in a really abusive home. My stepdad was very physically, sexually, emotionally abusive. He's just a bad guy, and family support back then wasn't as amazing as it is now for me. And so I got in trouble for drinking and running around doing stupid little crimes, and I ended up becoming a participant in the Benton County Juvenile Department programs. My probation officer at the Benton County Juvenile Department, I believe, placed me there not willingly, um, because my home life wasn't very good. And I wouldn't stay home. I was constantly running away. I was running around with all of these people who just weren't making very good choices. I was not making very good choices. And so my PO, I believe, was finally like, no, we're gonna have you somewhere stable. And he put me there. Well, I didn't want to go to Jackson Street because they would control my life. They would make me follow rules, and they were amazing. They helped me with school, they helped me with getting clean, they helped me with everything. But I didn't want to do it. you know it was resistance the whole time. I was not an easy resident. No, I was angry. I was fresh out of a situation where the abuse was very, very intense. So I was really mean. the the first the first time that I went there, I don't remember too terribly much about. I remember that Kendra was there, and I remember that John was the shelter manager at the time, and everyone was super welcoming. They were very much like, I want to support you, I want to be here for you, and I was pretty much the big middle finger. I didn't want any of it. I was still lost. I don't really remember when it changed, but I mean, by the time I left when I was 18, it was the most consistent place that I had ever been. It was amazing and supportive, and any time that I called, I was welcome to go. It was, I think it changed because it was the most stable place I had had ever, I think. And the people working there were really great. It was all the wraparound services that I received. It was the drug court program, it was the Yes House, it was Jackson Street, it was the juvenile department. All of them worked together, and they would communicate with each other, and they were constantly checking in, and they were constantly just making sure I was doing the best I could. I had a job. I was doing good, and I think it's because I was held accountable for the things that I would do and say, where I didn't have that at home because my mom worked all the time. And I mean, by the end of it, I started to feel like Jackson Street was more home than anywhere else, And when I turned 19 and I moved back to Corvallis and I was looking for a job, I came to ask Kendra, can you help me? I need to find a job. And she said, well, we're hiring. And I was like, cool, what does that have to do with me? And a couple weeks later, I was working there, and I stayed there for about 3 years. And I'm gonna be honest, I think that was probably where kids are not really grateful to their parents when they're growing up. And I definitely could have been nicer to the staff at Jackson Street when I was living there, but I think that because of all of the support and everything, and then I turned around and I started working there, and it shaped me into being someone that I can be really proud of today. Yeah, I mean, Jackson Street's been there, like I said, it's going on 16 years now, and they're Kendra just texted me today talking to me about how I'm doing, you know. And I'm 32 years old. I was 15 or 16 when I started accessing services, you know, and it's definitely, I know that if I need to, I can always call anytime and they have my back. And that's huge, because I didn't have that for a really long time, you know, most of my life, and honestly more so than my family at some points. They've been there. For donors that are looking to support Jackson Street, the only thing I can say is it is literally a life-saving program. It is going to be the difference between life or death for some of these kids that come from programs or from lives that they can't survive in. They need to be safe. And Jackson Street is a safe place for them. It's a safe place now, even for some of the young adults that I'm hearing. There's a street outreach program for them. There's all these things. Like, it's like a lighthouse in like this big stormy ocean where you can go if you need to be safe. And if it wasn't there, things would be really bad. It would be really scary and dark. It's not just kids now. I was very angry. I was addicted to drugs. I was abused and hopeless and lost. And now I work in a place where I get to help people who are also abused and hopeless and lost. And I get to do for them the same thing that Jackson Street did for me. So it's not just one person. It's that pay it forward thing. It's you help one person and then that person helps all these others, you know? I mean, it's not just this one program. It branches out into so many other areas in the community, and there's people that you wouldn't think need the help or that have accessed the help that do. I have patients at the hospital that they had no idea that I was a drug addict or that I'm a felon or that I was a street kid there for a while. They didn't know any of that, and I get to tell them my story because I'm alive to tell them my story, and that was only possible with the help of, you know, places like Jackson Street.